Okay guys, so I get asked this a lot, and this is a really important thing to do in between coats of epoxy and sealer. I'm always asked, what do I need to do between coats of epoxy and sealer if I want to add another one, if I'm going to do this, if I'm going to do that, if I want to add another coat of epoxy, if I want to add another coat of sealer, if I want to add a coat of sealer to epoxy. Epoxies and sealers achieve what we call a mechanical bond. There's chemical bond, there's mechanical bond. And when I say mechanical bond, they have to be able to penetrate the surface. They have to be able to get in there, seep into the pores and the crevices, and kind of sink their eagle claws into it and get a really good bite to it. If you go over a surface like this, where it's smooth and solidified, all the epoxy is cured, it's hardened, it's solidified, nothing can penetrate it. It's almost like taking water and splashing it on the hood of a freshly waxed car. You're going to see the water just splash around, dance around everywhere, and you're going to start to see it separate, and whatever water doesn't roll off the hood, whatever stays there, it just stays up in a big, high little bubble of water. It can't penetrate anywhere, so it just builds itself up. What happens when you go down on a smooth, flat, solidified surface without profiling it ahead of time is generally your epoxy or sealer coat will start to fisheye. As you roll it out, all of a sudden you'll start to see it separate and spread away, and all sorts of little dots, small and large. What it's trying to tell you is, hey, this surface is too smooth, it's too solidified, I can't penetrate, so it starts to move away. So don't always think there's something wrong with your epoxy or sealer. 99 times out of 100, it's trying to tell you, hey, I can't penetrate this, I'm not going to bond. And on the rare occasion that you don't profile it and it still lays down fairly well, it's most likely going to delaminate within a few weeks to a few months because it's hardened, it kind of stuck there for a while, but if it is a high traffic floor, forklifts, pallet jacks, vehicles, whatever, a lot of that pressure and release of the tires rolling over it, putting a lot of pressure, then lifting up, putting a lot of pressure, then lifting up, is going to cause that to finally just lift up in sheets. And it's going to delaminate. You can peel up big sheets at a time because it never really got a good mechanical bond to the surface. So today I want to go over what you use to do this. This is a 17-inch floor maintainer, just low RPM. What we're going to do today is going to screen it. We're going to tip this back. This is the attachment you want to get. It's prickly, has a bunch of little spikes on it, things like that. We just want to put this on here like this. We want to get a buffing pad. They come in red, black, white. I always just get the cheapest buffing pad. You don't need it for any special reason other than to stick right to that. This is what we call a 100 grit screen. It's a 17-inch in diameter, just like the machine. You're going to put it down here. Get your machine. Lay it flat over. I don't always get this right the first time. But anyways, you're going to lay it flat on there. Like I said, that's a 100 grit screen. I usually never go lower than 80 grit. If I have some serious sanding to do, maybe the sealer or something I have to sand is a little hard, or is it dried a little uneven because they put it down unevenly, you had splashes or puddles or whatever, and there's high spots you need to take down, usually I'll use an 80 grit screen. But 99 times out of 100, I use a 100 grit screen. If you go above this, sometimes that's too smooth and it's not giving your epoxy enough profile. If you go below it, a lot of times that's too rough. Especially once you start getting to 60 grit and below, the lower the number, the rougher you get. So 60 grit is going to start to have little sand and granules in it, which now starts to gouge and scratch the surface more than profiling it. And when you use 60 grit, and I've seen it happen many times, coatings still delaminate from that because they'll flow into the little scratches and gouges that it made, but it didn't profile the surface the way 100 grit does. So please keep that in mind. Just because you think you're going rougher, you're getting a better profile, you're actually not, and it can delaminate from that. So this is how you really want your floor to look when you're done. I'm going to buff out this floor right now so you guys can see what I'm talking about. I usually lower this to about waist height right now, and I'll lock it in. I'll start at the top right corner. And this is exactly how you want your epoxy to look. For metallics, for single coat epoxies, for dual coat epoxies, if you're going to put a sealer over it, if you already have a sealer and you're going to put another sealer coat on it because you want to reduce the shine or add another layer. So I'm going to start to come down here, and I'm going to overlap my previous pass by half. I want to make sure that I get a very good profile to this floor. This is how you want your floor to look. I'll sometimes go down a few feet on the sides, and then I'll come back up. You can see there's very little dust that this makes. It's really not a messy process. You will have dust that you need to clean up afterwards. But you notice every pass I'm overlapping by half of my previous pass. I want to make sure I get a very good profile. This is what allows me to sleep good at night. I receive too many calls from contractors. Now there is a rectangular vibration sander out there. You use sandpaper, not a screen. That's not a bad tool, it's not a bad device, but it's not what we recommend because I've used both, I've practiced with both, and it simply just doesn't give the profile the way this does. Each of these screens is going to yield you approximately maybe 250 square feet on one side, and then it starts to get too crammed up with too much dust and everything that you've sanded off. The screen starts to fill up. So what I'll do is, I'll tilt this over, I'll take my screen, after it fills up there, after about 200 square feet, I'll shake it off really good, and then I'll flip it over on the side that was attached to here, and I'll put that down, and then I might get another 100 to 150 square feet before the screen is completely used up. It's rare and far between that you'll get 400 square feet per screen. So be prepared, you know, whatever you have, kind of divide that by 300, and that's the amount of screens that you're going to have. If you got 2,000 square feet, divide by 300, you're going to need 7 screens just to do that floor. This is what you want your floor to look like. After this, you can vacuum it, clean it up really, really well, use a very high PSI, it's not PSI, suction. I forgot the name. But anyways, use a very high suction on your dust collector, get all the dust off, get it really, really clean. Now in some cases, you could microfiber damp mop it. Just get a microfiber mop, either side works, soak it down really well, and after you vacuum, don't just microfiber mop this. I'm kind of stepping out of turn here, but vacuum it very thoroughly first. If you're still feeling dust, wipe your hand over it, and your hand is still coming up dusty even after you vacuumed it once or twice, do a microfiber mop, a damp microfiber mop. You're not going to lift up, you're just going to keep coming back around. Now you won't get very far microfiber mopping because it starts to fill up with dust pretty quick. So about every 50 to 75 square feet, you're going to want to take that off, rinse it, clean it, and continue your mopping. Sometimes you might have to do this twice to get a really good, clean mop on your floor, but the water dries very, very quickly. It's not like you need to wait hours or days for the water to dry. This water here will dissipate within minutes, and you can start doing your coating. But you always want to try vacuuming first. If you simply just can't get the dust off through vacuuming, you are going to have to damp microfiber mop your floor. Get it nice and clean. Now you're ready to apply a sealer coat, an epoxy coat, whatever you're ready to do next. But achieving a profile so that your next coat can get a mechanical bond is paramount. I can't stress this enough, and this is what we here at ETU stipulate you must do. You must screen and profile each coat prior to putting a new one down. For more information or any questions, please don't hesitate to contact our customer service line or visit our website. Thanks for tuning in.